You guys think there are more people coming? Anybody?
No idea.
Okay.
I know Jim's coming, but he'll show up with just fine. Oh, if you're a kid, yeah. Oh, no, I get so many pictures of my kids. Like, so many pictures of my kids.
He's on time for operations.
Oh, this is
Well, because
nice.
he knew we got here, so he's just like.
It's so cute. This kid was on the bus and she was crying.
So he's setting them up.
Oh.
Do we go anymore?
Thank you. Okay. Did everybody who wants to speak, do public
I didn't put
comment?
my name on it, and I thought of something, so
I'll
Just
give
came to you, just came to him, just like that.
I'll give you the.
that's how I
black.
operate. I got too much stuff going on.
All right, call me back then, though. Call me back.
I will, that's on my list.
All right.
There you go.
This is in the event.
There you go. Well, let's see if I can,
I can see.
Jeannie. Okay, got it. All right. Okay. I think
Do it.
it's time. Okay, I am officially calling this special meeting of the Sebago School Committee to order. Roll call, we are missing Joe this evening. It's an excused absence. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I think
It's big enough.
I pledge
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, great. Okay, so that brings us to the public comment on agenda items. Grove? Oh, you don't have anything to say yet? Okay. Where's Chris? Oh,
Chris?
hi, Chris.
Good. I don't have any comments as of yet.
Okay. Well, this is, I'm just gonna say, this is the
Let's
public
frame it.
comment section, so I will go back to each of you eventually. Michelle.
Hey,
Michelle.
so I guess everybody in this room probably knows my stand on. But I just wanted to go into it a little bit more. I was able to watch the last school board meeting online, and I just wanted to make a comment about a couple things I did hear. Donnell, you had brought up that Omicron was probably a little less severe than Delta, which is what you had heard. And in fact, it is. So I just wanted to clear that up. CDC director said that Omicron is 53% less risk of hospitalization and 91% less risk of death. So I think that's pretty standard right there. And also you were told that it was the unvaccinated that it was attacking more, and with our low vaccination rate here. If you go to Maine Health and Northern Lights website, they can actually, it has it right there all listed for you if they were vaccinated versus not vaccinated. And it's really not that much difference. So just to clear that up, I hope that helps a lot with what you were. And I know there was something said that our vaccination rate is too low in Sebago to drop mask mandates. I think we really need to take into consideration our natural immunity that we have here in Sebago Elementary School. And I know it was said that it doesn't last as long, but there's really not enough evidence at this time to suggest that. And the fact that we're already looking at another booster, that just proves to me that the vaccine really doesn't have all that long of an immunity either. And I think it's important that the statement keeps saying that many kids are hospitalized and have died with COVID. I think we need to look at the statistics of it rather than just saying that blanket statement. As of February 24th, there had been 12,642,165 kids that had tested positive, and 1,005 had died from COVID. So that brings the mortality rate of children to 0.0079%, which is pretty low if you ask me. Not downplaying any deaths of children, but I also don't want to downplay the psychological and social effects this is having on children either. Suicide rates in teenage girls has gone up 51% since the pandemic. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. Children presenting to the emergency department below 10 years old with attempted suicides, which they shouldn't even really know what suicide is at that age. And I know it's not spoken of in the media, but we are seeing it in healthcare. And I really think the pandemic we're seeing right now in children is the mental health pandemic. I think we need to take this all into consideration when making these mandates. Pretty much it.
Is that everything
Yeah.
that you had to say? Thank you for the statistics. Okay, and I forgot to go over prior to opening up to public comment, just the basic rules. We've got a 2-minute time limit on comments, and I ask that everybody please be respectful. We're all part of the same community, some of us even the same family, so you know, it is Sebago. So thank you, Michelle. And if you could just identify yourself and where you live before you speak, that would be great. So Charles.
Charles Burchett, Sebago, Maine. The first question I have is, I guess, where is this meeting headed tonight? What are we reviewing the vote to go optional mask, or is there another vote taking place? I guess that's going to kind of affect where I go with my comments.
So I don't know if you saw the agenda for the
I
meeting.
didn't grab one.
Okay, so after public comments, we have an action item, which is to go through and update our reopening plan. Okay. So we will be voting on things.
So a vote tonight could potentially reverse the optional mask vote.
I can't predict anything. So
Is
I would-
it on the table? That's on the table tonight. Vote.
the masking is one of the things we will be discussing.
This is Sebago Elementary, okay? We have schools in Massachusetts, masking optional. Several other schools in this state, much larger than Sebago Elementary, masking optional. At what cost to the children do we keep pushing masks? As far as the health hazards go, at this point in time, it's pretty apparent that the mental health hazards outweigh the physical health hazards of COVID. You know, it's time to make a step of forward progress in the right direction here and end this. I mean, we can't keep masks on our children forever, basically. Like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but you know, it's time, basically, is what I have to say. A lot of the information and statistics prove that. And also, I think we should look at, you know, the people who choose to continue to wear masks. I think that, you know, the school should be providing N95 masks for those children, because that's what's proven to work. You know, these cloth masks, you know, they're really ineffective for treating any of this. So if we could look into that. And the other question I had is the pool testing. I'm sure that's in the reopening plan. You know, when are we gonna move on from that as well? You know, at some point in time, we need to get back to some type of normalcy in these children's lives. And that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie.
Yes, hi, Jeannie McLaughlin, and I'm really here as a grandparent. Everything Michelle says, I totally agree. Like Michelle, I'm a nurse. Been very, very fortunate in my life to have worked in probably every aspect of nursing. I now do consulting and I travel around, mostly New England, and can agree that, for example, there was just a study done in Massachusetts where I'm doing some consulting work that does show deaths are 50-50, vaccinated, unvaccinated. That's, you know, statistics that's important. I've also seen a very like statistic, as Michelle said, for Maine. Again, as people are saying here, we're at a point of child abuse for these kids. I know every person probably here knows of a child who is fearful. I know of 2 children that are fearful of going places now because of this fear mongering about masks and, you know, not being able to go out and be around. So I think we're to a point, mental health, I have a statistic here that in young children, when I'm talking about adolescents, that it went up 24% last year, mental illness, risks of suicide, children fearful, anxiety, all kinds of types of things, just stealing their lives away here. I'm gonna just kind of read a couple of things. So for example, for Maine, the statement that just came out from Mills a few days ago says Maine people should make decisions about masks they believe are in the best interests of themselves and their families. The Maine CDC says masking is no longer recommended for schools. American Academy of Pediatrics, the new guidance says each family to make a decision that's best for them and their families. So right there, you know, as Charlie said, I think the only school that I'm aware of that I wasn't able to get a final response on was masks are optional. And how many children are in the school? 125,
113.
113, okay, 113 children. The state of Maine, I think there have been, under the age of 20, there have been 2 deaths. And of those, the deaths, again, as Michelle points out, no one is minimizing any death, any illness, anything. But they were people who were 18 years old who had 4 or more comorbidities. And that's what we're finding with the deaths. Michelle works in hospitals. I'm working in other states. Children, as we have been proven, if you really want to look at research, evidence-based research and facts, children are not givers or givers. I mean, you know, they don't get it, they don't give. Children are not. They're even saying the new Pfizer vaccine that has come out for the 5 to 11-year-olds is the efficacy is virtually not even existing. So I'm agreeing with people here to continue to see these children masked, for us to continue to put fear in these children, that these kids are wearing masks that are trying to play, trying to live a life. I think it's gone too far and it needs to end.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, back to Grove. Any comment?
Well, I'd just like to say, I think there's 2 sides to every issue. Not the health field, but other health people might say completely the opposite thing. So we have to take into consideration our kids. I'm concerned about the mental health issues of it too. I'm concerned about the fact that COVID's gone on too long. We're all sick of these masks. You know? So, you know, that's basically what I have to say. You know? And I think the school board has the children's best interest and the community's best interest for their health and their well-being.
Thank you. Chris, did you have?
On the CDC director's statement that Omicron was less in the next sentence on that statement of February 11th. she stated she recommended that masks still be worn. On your, I could not get, I tried to get the Maine Health and the Northern Lights vaccination versus unvaccinated. I don't see it there. But you did reference March 4th on Facebook.
March 3rd.
The meeting at the time was on in February. I would have gotten the 10th. And the vaccinated over unvaccinated was higher at that time, but I couldn't. I got it from Nara Shaw's briefing. I couldn't get it a transcript of that. The death rate, you're putting it in percents, which makes it relatively small. I believe that people don't consider even one child dying of COVID a small percent. So therefore, I use the statistic that as of now, there are 2 to 3 children per week in the United States passing from COVID still. Yes. We can both bring our research papers.
I'm happy to do that. I looked today. I'm happy to bring that right on.
They have.
I didn't know I needed to bring those.
Okay, so please address the board. Thank you.
And I believe that we should follow the CDC guidelines. We made the optional mask when the state of Maine made the optional mask after March 9th. And I just wonder, as we continue on through this reopening, if we need to follow what the public wants or what the CDC guidelines and the standard operating procedure will be. If they do become necessary that we remask, is that off the table?
I think we approach that when it comes, that's not what we're here to discuss.
It is for me.
So once again, please address the board. Thank you.
So therefore, that was one of my questions is what will be the guidelines? And will there be any guidelines?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I didn't,
Um,
can I ask a question?
no,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
what is your question?
I'm sorry, what is your name?
Chris Valtunis, I'm the school nurse.
Chris? I'm sorry, Chris. You just said the CDC does not recommend removing masks for children?
They made it optional.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. CDC is very clear, is the American Academy of Pediatrics. Masks should come off. They should be optional for people. Families make decisions for their children based on what they think is the best for them and their families. I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, Chris, I want to make sure that I understood what you said.
If the CDC makes a different recommendation and says that the next variant comes along, or in next fall, the respiratory becomes higher, will we follow the CDC guidelines?
I think you.
Oh, okay,
One at a time.
so one at a time, and you must address the board, or I will have to cut off the comment. Okay.
Wow. I guess.
Hold on just a second. Do you have anything else you would like to add, Chris?
No.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is it a question or a comment about information?
I mean, I don't want to go back and forth, but if that situation does arise, I suggest that a vote from the parents of children in school be the determining factor in that.
We will definitely be having some
I get it.
workshops and meetings to discuss the 2022, 2023 school
Yeah.
year. And they will be advertised. and I hope you come to them because
I will do my
we
best.
welcome public comment. Okay. Did I see another hand somewhere? Grove?
No, I just like to say, the school board does set the policies. Obviously, we take into account a majority of parents or, that consideration. But you would also take in at that time, maybe CDC guidelines. As far as COVID goes, yeah, I'd like to kick it down the road, and say there wasn't any more variants happening. But if you read a little bit, and I don't want to read this, but there are variants happening in other countries now. Just put it out there. I don't want to be mean.
Okay. Okay,
Would you mind if I spoke? I know I didn't sign up,
I don't mind.
Okay.
Feel free.
since I can't drive and talk at the same time. The car. So I wanted to share what we did last week. On Thursday, thank you, Joe. On Thursday, we pulled all the kids in here for an assembly, first assembly in 2 years. Kids were super excited, very well behaved. Granted, it only lasted 5 minutes, but still really well behaved for 5 minutes. And we shared with them that masks were going to be optional. They were ecstatic with that. When 5 minutes later, where I'm out dismissing, I had kids, they were running to their cars being picked up. Mom, Dad! That being said, I also explained to everybody a couple of rules that we were going to follow going forward. One, if you're in a class that's, designated as a positive pool, the entire class is considered a close contact, and that class will have to wear a mask for 5 days. We actually had 2 classes that applied to last week, and those kids were so good on Friday and Monday when all the other classes were more optional. They kept their masks on, so I made sure I recognized that. Very excited they came in today without their masks. And then the other piece that we made sure was really important is that we had to respect everybody's decision. It is an optional, personal, family decision, and the students and the staff who choose to wear a mask, they're wearing a mask. The students and staff who choose not to wear a mask, they're not wearing a mask. We're going to treat the masks like a piece of jewelry. Not everybody wears it, and when they do, they do. When they don't, they don't. And the kids have been pretty darn respectful about that, and they understand, if their class is the one that is, positive, which we got the last one, everybody's
None.
negative this week.
All good this
So,
week.
Thank goodness.
I wanted to share that, and I believe in the bottom of my heart that masks should be optional.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, I'm going to close the public comment portion and ask for a motion to, how do we want to phrase this?
Can I ask one more question before you close it to the board?
Sure.
Real quick?
Mhm.
Is there any way for the board to get information on false positives with the pool testing? Like an average of false positives?
I think probably. I don't-
Well,
Or false negatives,
so
either way.
we've had three, right, Chris? I think 3 times that we've had a pool come back positive.
Mhm.
We've tested all of the kids and they were negative. We tested them again the second day, they were negative. So we considered that a false positive, and I believe that's happened 3 times in the, 6, 7 months we've done this?
Since September.
And
Yeah.
we've been doing 6, 7 pools a
Yeah,
week.
6 to 7 pools a week.
6 or 7 pools a
for
week,
However many weeks. that
3
is,
where we couldn't
25?
find a positive when it
Yeah.
came back positive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do we
It's,
want
it's,
this
it's a motion,
phrased?
it's a motion to revisit the 2021-22 reopening plan. That's what you are committed to.
So can I have a motion to revisit the 21-22 reopening plan? Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay.
Wendy, Wendy and Maggie.
Moved and Maggie seconded. Thank you, ladies. Okay. Does everybody have a copy of it in front of you? So David,
What I'd like to do is take us through point by point and make a recommendation
Yep.
for each, and then opportunity for board discussion. What I would ask is that if there is an item that there's give and take on, that the board do a quick poll on a proposed revision so we can agree at the end to accept the reopening plan as revised in one piece. All right, so our school did reopen on September 1st, 2021 for in-person learning. We do not offer remote instruction, and on January 24th, by school committee action, we removed the requirement to have the daily health ticket filled out and turned in. So that brings us to masks. Propose that line read, masks will be optional indoors for students, staff, and visitors. Masks will be optional indoors for students, staff, and visitors. Because that's worth talking about, I believe the committee should discuss.
Wendy?
So, because it's been recommended to make them optional, I think that they should be optional, but I like Charles's suggestion that we provide the KN95 mask for kids who wish, or whose parents wish that they would wear them, because I think that the cloth masks don't really do anything at all. Well, they do something, but nothing of real, I mean, they don't really work as well. And so I think that, I know that they have children's size masks, and I think that would be a good thing to have on hand. Just like other things that we would have on hand, like Band-Aids for kids in the nurses' room. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, and I have a question. Can we do that? Budgetary?
So we discussed offering and asking students who choose to wear a mask, either a sort of hospital grade paper one, the surgical ones, or 95s. We've not yet found the 95 in children's size.
They have them. I know that. I've seen them.
And so be happy to take that information. The cost for having those on hand is something we're looking into, but it's a discussion we've had at school to have them available for students, recommended and available. So I can bring to our next committee meeting cost for that.
Okay. And availability.
Cost and availability,
But-
sure.
But wouldn't that be part of what we vote on then? Because
It can be. I mean, if
We'd probably have to phrase it so that it's contingent upon cost and availability.
well, wait a minute, because if you're saying cost.
Well, I mean, the
that's
cost
something
should be
I mean,
within
what is-
reason, but availability may be
There's not a
the
problem.
key.
My daughter has masks for her children, and they're both N95s, and they're little kids. So they are available. That's not a
Okay,
problem.
I'm just thinking shipping.
So I just feel
supplies.
like if we wanted to make that something that we have, I think that's be part of it.
I think you also have to consider though, kids have a hard enough time wearing a cloth mask. Those N95s, and I'm sure you can ask those nurses, are not easy to wear. They are way tighter.
This is
they're
a
more
KN95, and it's easier to wear than a cloth
It
mask,
is.
and it doesn't slide off your nose.
And I have
That's what
one,
I wear.
I have one myself on, and
Thank you.
I have grandchildren who wear them, and they're fine with it.
I mean, I'm just saying that, so.
Right, but again, the whole point of it being optional.
It's
like I said,
optional.
But it's also a parent's choice.
Of
I just-
course,
Suggestion.
of course, it's a parent's choice. I'm just saying have them available, okay? It's, no one's gonna force a child to wear a mask because it's optional. I'm saying that if we have them available, like we have Band-Aids or something in the school, I think that is a reasonable thing to have.
And it could be helpful for some of the
Of
families
course
that
it
would
could.
have.
If a parent
financial-
wants a child to come in and wear a mask, let's say that, you know, and the kid forgot their mask, it would be nice if we had one to offer, that's all.
So
So how do we?
Wendy, you're introducing a change that reads masks will be optional indoors for students, staff, and visitors, period. Do you want to name the type, or do you want to say like the category of masks will be available?
Well, if we say KN95,
That's fine.
that covers it pretty well, because they are the most effective.
And
So are we just saying that that's gonna be an option in addition to the cloth?
available.
If they want it.
It's just,
If
yeah,
the-
that's
The
just-
surgical masks are already available in the nurse's office. Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So, you know, if you would kind of just look around and ask for thumbs up or
So
down.
is that a thumbs up or down? I know it's thumbs up for Wendy because she's the one who proposed it. Chris?
Yeah, I think based on availability and cost, because I know it can be hard to find them, having to search for them to be around my niece who is really sick, but I think if we can get them, we should.
Okay.
But I also, can we talk about the larger issue with masks? Are we all gonna have a chance to weigh in?
In a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Thumbs up or down, Maggie? on-
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I don't mind, like you said, as long as it's not being pushed on parents, that if you're gonna wear a mask, this has to be done. If it's an option and the parents want to choose that option, I'm okay with that, as long as it's optional. Yep.
Okay. All right, Chris, what did,
I just wanted to weigh in too and agreeing that I think it's time for masks to be optional. And one of my biggest concerns was around teachers not having to be in charge of managing who is wearing a mask today. It might change day to day. And I was glad for that communication that says like parents and kids, they're responsible for this decision. Teachers aren't held accountable for managing that. They have enough going on. And I really appreciated the assembly. There are some kids, I have two boys. One of them was psyched, wanted to throw his mask in the campfire. The other one wants to keep wearing it. He should be able to. They both should be able to. And I think we have to be really careful about the messaging we give all kids. And I'm glad that they heard that from you, the whole school, because it really, it's no one's right to comment. And yeah, those are my 2 cents.
No, I agree. I think the mask should be optional. I think it's up to the parents to decide what is best for your child. You know, and like you said, and if kids and the parents feel that they want their child to wear a mask to school, that's their right, and that's okay. But I also feel that the parents that, you know, don't feel it's necessary should also allow their kids to be kids. You know, I agree. I mean, I've got 2 kids in the school as well, and it's hard to see them. You know, I've got one child who knows nothing about a mask. And believe me, she was ecstatic today that she could finally go without one because she hasn't known anything else. And I've got the other kid who went without one for so long, that's the norm. And then he had to wear one and they're devastated. They don't understand it, especially when a lot of them don't show symptoms of, even if they do get it, they don't physically really show symptoms. They have a hard time understanding why they're wearing it, why, and they feel like they're being punished. And I don't want these kids to feel like they're being punished. You know, they need to enjoy being a kid. So I agree, you know, they should be optional. It should be totally up to the families to decide what's right for their child.
Does the chair want to say anything?
the chair has been pretty clear on her take on all of this from the beginning of the school year. So go back and
watch the videos.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How would you like me to word that?
I'm for optional masking.
Well, no,
Is
I
it-
mean,
Just put it
the
down.
statement with the K95.
Masks will be optional indoors
Yeah.
for students, staff, and visitors. Don't change anything yet.
No.
Period. K95 masks will be available, period. Just,
Okay.
all right. Students will move among classrooms as they did pre-COVID. We encourage that. We believe that there has been no or one case of transmission in school through the whole year. And this has been something we operated under. Physical distancing in classroom spaces and common areas to the extent possible. Continue to run the lunchroom the way we have and classrooms the way we have. Field trips will resume. I don't think we've taken our first one yet, but we're ready. We're ready. Visitors will be welcome in school. Continue to remind the public that we are welcoming people into the school, and volunteers are both accepted and desired. So if you're out there listening and have some time, come on in. Remote IEPs, those are individual education plan meetings, will be allowed, provided it's agreed to by all participants. This is something that actually has been incredibly helpful for parents who can't make it in during the school day. We would like to continue that regardless of any public health going forward. And the school will continue to use hand washing and sanitation protocols. Always good hand washing skills. Vaccination quarantine. The district encourages vaccination for all staff and students who are eligible. Our school nurse can provide vaccination information. That next bullet is no longer relevant. The state stopped collecting staff vaccination data in October. If that changes at the DOE level, we'll comply, but right now it asks that you strike that bulleted item completely. And contact tracing will continue if a student or staff member contracts COVID-19. I would suggest a comma as per CDC guidance. So this next section on pool testing, I propose that we call this section pool testing and quarantine. And I would like to hand out to the committee members the current information that we shared with parents and which is posted on our website, and ask that we replace that whole section with two notes. One says, see Sebago Elementary School website, and the other one says, additional information is available at the maine.gov site. So all of those details about pool testing would come out and be replaced by the communication that we shared and have posted.
Leaving the one about the essential workers.
Sure, but I don't even think we need to do that. Based on the CDC quarantine guidelines, I think it's all fine.
Okay.
I do have some questions regarding this section, if I could. So I do have to ask how, and I agree with the public, how much longer are we going to conduct the pool testing? And the reason why I ask is because, again, and I understand there may be some benefits to it, but I also have to ask, how much longer are we going to do this? Because it gets tiresome for these kids. I know it's a simple nose swab, but again, we're trying to get these kids back to a normal everyday thing. So I think my other question with pool testing is to think about, do we continue with it? If we do, can we change some guidelines on it? And my biggest question is, so right now, currently, if you have a class that has a positive case, that child is out. But the rest of their class has to wear a mask for 5 days. They were all tested again and they were all negative. So in my mind, why can't they go without a mask? You already tested them again. They're negative. If you feel you want to test them on day 2 as well, just to be sure, maybe that's what you do. But again, and I have a perfect example. I have a kindergarten student who, her classmate was positive and everybody got to take their masks off, but their whole class, she felt like she was being punished. And it's tough because they're like, well, I tested negative. Why do I have to wear a mask? So again, it's something to think about, do we say, okay, if these kids test and they're negative, and I get it, we want to try to be safe and, maybe you test them a second day just to be on the safe side, but can we go with going without the mask for the 5 days for the children that are negative? And I totally understand, if they're positive, yes, they're out. But I think that's my other question with the quarantine length is because I was under the impression that we were following CDC guidelines, which clearly states if you're positive, you need to be out for 5 days. My children were both just out for 10 days. And that is really tough on a kid when they were symptomatic for 1 day. So why are we not following CDC guidelines? Can we also, because when you look at all of this and they're talking about, they have to wear a mask until day 10 and they're positive and they show symptoms. I mean, I get it. If they show symptoms for the entire 5 days, and, absolutely, sorry. But in the same token, if they're sick for 1 day, CDC says, if by day 5, you're improving, you don't have a fever, you're non-symptomatic, you can go back to the public. You don't need to wear a mask. So why are we making these children be out for 10 days? And again, we're trying to keep our kids in the school, not have them be out for longer. So again, that's something that, I'd like to consider as we're doing this.
Great. Megan, I had hoped to sit here tonight and say we've just had 3 weeks of no positive pool testing and make a recommendation based on that. You'll see when we get to the bottom, I am hopeful that this week is the first in a string of weeks where we have no positive cases at all. And we really do feel that we've moved on. I think it is the committee's role right now to take my recommendation, ask questions, discuss, and then choose how you want to go forward. So for us, based on a number of staff members who are pregnant and the feeling that they have, it just feels safer for our staff to keep the 5 days of mask on, which is, a big part of our reason. It helped our transition from mask mandatory to mask optional. And, knowing that the committee will revisit on a regular basis and we will continue to use CDC guidance, I would ask that the committee discuss how they want to handle the quarantine. I made my recommendation, and it is totally the committee's role moving forward.
So the CDC guidelines currently have people quarantining for 5 days. And in a school setting, days 6 through 10, they can come back as long as they're non-symptomatic. And must wear a mask days 6 through 10. Those are the guidelines from the CDC currently, if they were positive.
CDC, that's the CDC.
That's the CDC,
recommendation.
yeah,
Okay.
that's CDC. that's.
And I'm
something
not
that-
questioning the guidelines if you're positive. I'm questioning more for the children that are not, for the ones that are negative. Right, because I agree, you know, if a child is positive, yes, have them quarantine out, you know, be home for 5 days. And when they come back, wear a mask for, like you said, day 6 or 10. I'm not questioning that part of it. I'm questioning their classmates, you know, especially if we do test them again, you know, can those other children come back to school that were close contacts? Can they come back without a mask? Because I guarantee if the committee says, well, maybe we do a couple more days of testing just to be on the safe side, a kid is going to be way more, you know, willing to do a quick nose swab and wear a mask all day. So, but that's just something to think about.
Do we have access to additional testing? Can we confirm that?
We can't do
We,
another pool test until the following Monday.
we
We're scheduled for
have,
once a week.
we have
can have more.
antigen test supply to test students in a class on day 6, 8, 10, right?
So the way we worded it is that if a student is positive.
Yep.
On day 6, they can come back. If they have a negative test, they get to stay.
I'm sorry, we have,
But that's only for the positive student.
Right.
For the negative.
we have
students,
antigen tests on hand to do full class testing on the day we get
The day
the
we get
pool
the
results
positive.
back. We believe we have access to test moving forward from the state. I'm looking at you, Chris, because I think that's true. There's no shortage in the state right
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
We
We
request and they get.
I watched NPR because there was no COVID funding bill. All the testing supplies, there's no funding, so they're gonna run out by the end of May. So I am gonna order more kits tomorrow.
Yep.
And probably a large order tomorrow.
Yep, great.
Hopefully we'll have enough.
Great.
But when the state gave us that supplies and the state has said that we're to use the antigen tests only to test the pools when they come back and to test symptomatic kids. The state is not funding what they kind of call tests of cure or test to re-enter.
Okay.
So therefore, we're in iffy ground with the state supply of Vinex tests.
So we have had tests up till now that have let us do our testing protocols as we've designed them. Maggie, do you want to propose a revision? Do you want to ask to look at it again?
I would like there to be a revision, just because of, you know, again, just to kind of see if we can't change how the negative children in a close contact are going forward, the length of quarantine. So yes, I would like a revision.
So that would be in this document?
If that's what we're gonna reference instead of like all of this, we're gonna reference this. I would like a revision.
So the 5th bullet. Yep, all students who are considered close contacts with the positive student will wear a mask at school for 5 days.
And the proposed revision?
Language.
You can't do it, Joe. You can't do it yet. I know.
What about kids that were prior positive? Are they being tested? So my children are positive for COVID in middle of February. Are they being tested now?
In the pool testing, if you've tested positive, you're out for 90 days to not contaminate the pool.
How many kids are being tested?
What's our number?
It was around 100.
We were at 100 and about,
I don't know because there was kids absent this weekend. It's It's like 90 to 100.
It's still a lot because of the rolling 90 days. It's like, no, can't ask that question.
But we also do test staff, so there is staff.
So only 16 kids have tested positive then?
No, it rolls, Charles. So like once your 90 days is up, you go back in.
Right.
The system required isn't too complex, but it takes some time.
Okay.
But we've done it.
Wendy, I have a question. So for the kids who tested not negative, is this part of the CDC recommendation that they have the negative kids come back for 5 and wear masks for 5 days? Was that our?
Our recommendation.
Okay, so instead, what you're suggesting, Maggie, is have them tested instead, is that correct?
They're tested anyway.
No, but a second time, so that they wouldn't have to wear masks, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
And like you said, that's because, again, if that was an option, I mean, personally, I felt that if they tested negative the first time, let them go for the 5 days, but I also understand, the school has concerns, and if it eases everybody's mind, that's why I say on day 2 or day 3, whichever one it is, can that class have an additional test
Right.
just to make sure? Because again, I think the kids would much rather just do a quick nose swab as opposed to being masked for 5 days when they originally tested negative.
right.
So,
So as long as we can do that, as long as we have the availability of the tests, that wouldn't be a problem then.
As long as you have availability of the tests.
Is that the problem?
It's not the problem today.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I am truly hoping that we are going into a period where we are not going to get positives in our pools. But, again, if the committee wants to support, it's basically, test to stay in school.
Just to stay.
It's test to stay instead of full class 5-day masking. Then you're going to revise that 5th bullet.
and I think the other quick question I had, sorry, but, because when we're talking about the pool testing is, because I know, again, the public has asked, when do we stop? So again, is that something where we can recommend that if we have so many weeks of negative tests, can we reconsider doing away with it? Because I understand we've only had 1 week so far, but as the weeks go, if we get more and more weeks and say you're on week 5 for whatever reason, at that point you say, okay, you know what? We've had over a month of negative. Let's revisit it and talk about doing away with it. Is that something?
We did have one period where we went 3 weeks. in a
3
row.
weeks.
We were pretty excited.
Yeah.
for 3 weeks.
Well, and like you said, and that's why, I think I think the state of Maine did kind of hit a peak. We've been going through that peak, but again, it's gonna start dropping again. So as long as people are kind of following that and we start to see more and more negative weeks, can we seriously revisit it and say, you know what? Let's do away with it because we've had so many weeks of negative testing. Let's do away with it.
So I think, Maggie, in the, that last section, which we're not up to yet, the review of the reopening plan, committee is you approved revisiting this plan on a regular basis.
Yep.
Any member can touch base with chair and say, I want it on the agenda for next meeting. And we do it, and you say, hey, it's been 5 weeks in a row. I say 5 weeks in a row, let's give it a rest. I just use 5 as an example, it doesn't have to be 5.
Yeah, I think that too.
So do you have some language change to that 5th bullet?
Thanks for bringing us back to that, Joe. Alan, sorry. That's on you, Maggie.
So what verbiage do?
All students who are considered,
So basically, I propose to change bullet 5. Students who are considered close contacts with a positive student will
Retest.
retest,
to stay.
yeah, we'll retest to stay with masking optional.
Will be retested, and if negative, masks are optional.
Yeah.
Do we want to say 2 to 3 days later? The reason I
Yeah,
ask
that's
is that, so like today, we happened to find out all of our classes were negative until later this afternoon.
Right.
So there could have been the potential for somebody being here tomorrow, and that's when we find out.
Right.
So,
And if that's the trend you're seeing, so that's where I would say, you know, what is probably in the best interest? Is it day 2? Is it day
Fridays.
3? Fridays.
Friday of that week, unless symptomatic.
So,
But if somebody tests, when do you get your
We test
results?
on Mondays.
Right, and
When
when
we
do you
get the results on Tuesday or Wednesday,
Right.
depends on how backlogged they are. Like today, we got all our negatives back. Except for one, we didn't get till later this afternoon. So if that had been a positive, we wouldn't have known until Wednesday morning. In which case, those kids would have been close contacts again on Wednesday morning.
okay, so if you find out
But
on
maybe
Wednesday.
Thursday, because if you wait till Friday, that's the whole day in between. I
We
mean,
have once gotten our results on Thursday.
so.
Right, that
how
was
about the-
pretty rare.
How about the day after you, I mean, would you do it the day after the testing results came in? Only because.
Well, that's when all the kids
otherwise-
would get tested. So we get the test results in on Tuesday, we test all the kids on Tuesday.
Right.
And what we have found is that most kids who are going to test positive usually 3 days to 5 days out. So that's why Friday makes
So,
good sense to test.
Yep.
If we're gonna do a second test
Right.
from the whole pool
then-
test to find our positive, Friday would be the day.
So- let me, so I'll just, so everyone has the same information. So we pool test on Mondays, we get the results back. As soon as we get a result back that's a positive, we do an antigen test with everybody in that class. So everyone's tested.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we find somebody who's positive, they go home. So the proposal on the table now would be, we find a positive, they go home, and then on Friday, which would be day 4, 3, we would retest the class again. We would ask parents to just pay attention to
Right,
symptoms
in
at
the
home.
meantime, but their parents would be contacted anyway about a positive.
They
case
would,
in the past.
they would be contacted.
Right, so when there is a positive pool and we find a positive student, I send out a text to whatever class that is. Okay, your kids are positive. Close contacts.
All students who are considered close contacts with positive students will, no comma, will be retested on Friday and may remain in school until then. Looking around
With masks optional. Is that what you said?
with masks optional.
Will be retested on Friday.
Yep.
And if negative, masks will be optional. What you want to say?
Yeah. With negative masks will be optional. But I don't even know if you have to write masks will be optional, because we've already said that in the prior.
I don't think
So
we need,
you could just leave the mask part out.
I agree with you,
Will
Wendy,
be retested on Friday.
and I don't think you need to put negative because the positive would go home.
Right.
And then the rest of that phrase, will wear masks in school, will be struck.
Yeah.
Okay? I think I got it.
I think I have it too. We'll compare and
All right, compare notes.
Alan will make the good choice. Maggie, does that capture,
I think so.
do you want to do a check-in on that?
Okay, Wendy, thumbs up or thumbs down on that? Great, Chris? Maggie, obviously, me,
You can
yes.
change your mind. You can. I know it's my idea, but it's not forward.
Recording songs. Waiting for a motion.
You are not recording thumbs. There's gonna
We're
be one,
do a motion.
there's gonna be one motion to accept as revised. Great, so that second handout replaces everything except see the SES website for the latest pool testing and quarantine information. And then additional information is available. All right, transportation. Buses will operate at full capacity with masks optional for all drivers and passengers. And then strike, this is a federal mandate. Parent drop-off and pickup process continues. And then that last section, review of the reopening plan. Recommend that you continue to review and approve any revisions to the plan on a regular basis. I would ask, and again, this might not be the time, but I would ask the committee to consider a second item under that, which might read, the school committee gives the superintendent of schools the authority to make operational changes to this plan based on Maine DOE and CDC guidance. Any operational changes will be communicated to the school committee. I'd ask you to consider that. I think that we could be in a situation where things change between meetings. We're meeting tonight in an extra meeting. It's not that I don't really enjoy spending time with you all and members of the Sebago community, but if we were able to, like we did, based on communication, make an operational decision based on CDC guidance, it would make our school day-to-day possibly more efficient. So I'd ask you to consider that.
Steve Bailey recommended that as well, just so that
Just makes
you're
sense.
aware.
I think provided that we have adequate notice and understanding and before something like that happens, because I think it didn't feel like that recently. So going forward, if we know that that is going to be in place.
So I would be thumbs up on that. Wendy, Chris. Okay.
And because you do your business in public and don't vote, campaign, or influence through email or phone calls, communication about that will go to and from the committee chair, who will then share with the school committee. So just making sure that
So the superintendent can email the committee chair.
I-
And then I can forward that email to the rest of the committee. That would be the easiest way for me, please. Thank you.
you are very welcome. That would be great.
Thank you.
I
feel like
don't want to put you in a bad.
What will that statement say?
You said it so eloquently.
It's written down. The school committee gives the superintendent of schools the authority to make operational changes to this plan based on Maine DOE and CDC guidance. Any operational changes will be communicated to the school committee.
Yeah, I can take that back. I try, I keep up. I get distracted.
Kirsten.
David, send a copy to you to Chris and I. We'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm giving a handwritten copy to somebody at the end of this meeting.
That's fine. We can read you ready.
All right, good. That is the end of my recommendations.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have anything else they want to bring up on the reopening plan, or do you think we've covered?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Well, I know that, and the reason why I ask is because, like, I didn't realize if you test positive, and I'm looking at, because they're saying if the child is positive, when they come back on day 6, we're gonna test them again. Are we making sure that the test we give them isn't gonna light up and test positive? Because there is a certain test that if you have COVID and doesn't matter, I think it's a PCR test, they say do not get another one because you will light up.
Yes,
So are
Yeah.
we just making sure that whatever we
Right.
give them is?
that's the pool test, and that's why we hold them out for 90 days.
Right.
We We had a case today where we had 2 students out on the same day, day 6, 1 positive, 1 not positive. So we're confident that the testing differentiates and we
Okay, I
can
just wanted
do
to
that.
double check.
And then,
Yep.
so our first week back from vacation, we did have a positive pool. Tested all the kids, negative, tested all the kids, negative. And what we later discovered was that a child who had it, we didn't know had it, and so that child was in the pool. So the test was doing what it was supposed to be doing, catching the more current ones, but the PCR test, which is what the pool test is,
Okay,
was more sensitive to it.
okay, no, I'm just double checking. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Good. So seeing no more comments, I'm looking for a motion to accept the reopening plan as revised.
Motion to accept the reopening plan as revised.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so now I am looking for a motion to adjourn. Oh, you did, I'm sorry. Yes, you did. You did. Could you tell us your name and where you're from?
Billy Joe Karofsky from Sebago.
Okay,
So I'd like to address the SLE second step program that as a parent was unaware that was happening in the school. And I just have a few questions on that. I had spoken on the phone.
I don't want to interrupt. I just wanted to, the agenda for tonight's, and I don't want to cut you off. I know you've been here. I know you sat through it. But we had an emergency meeting with a very short agenda and it doesn't have public comment on non-agenda items. Our meeting on Tuesday will, but the chair is the chair. So.
are you guys okay to hear this
Next week,
tonight? Okay,
that's the rule part of it tonight.
okay.
Here.
Are you able to come to our meeting on Tuesday night? Okay. I will keep your name on non-agenda items for our regular meeting, which is on Tuesday night, and it'll be at 7 o'clock. And where are we meeting?
Library.
Library. We'll be in the library. Do you know where that is? Okay. And we look forward to hearing your comments. Okay, and thank you very much. Thank you for coming and for sitting through all of this. Okay, so once again, motion to adjourn. Did I hear one?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second? Jeez. Okay, all in favor? All right, we are adjourned.